Okay, so here we are finally back live, Christophe, Clugston, and Ken ONeill. And we got lots of stuff to talk about. And we're going to tackle one of the most famous sayings that I've heard in martial arts in the last 20, 30 years, and also something I've heard from other people who don't know anything about martial arts. And that's attributed to Bruce Lee. And that's take what is useful and discard the rest. It's said in a lot of different other ways, but I don't know if that's exact.
Absorb what is useful is typically how it starts. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Absorb what's useful. Yeah. I've heard people say, take what works and throw away what doesn't. All different plays on it, but everyone attributes Bruce Lee as if Bruce Lee discovered this, this maxim. I guess everyone's trying to use it as a maxim. And, there's a lot wrong with that maxim, actually, and we're going to delve into that. And it's going to really irritate some of the diehard JKD people or other, and just martial artists in general. And okay, I'll start, and then Ken will put in his comments wherever he feels like it. And I'm basically going to say, number one, it's an excuse. I think it's used as an excuse from guys who are too lazy to not develop skills that they need to, because take what's useful or absorb what's useful and discard the rest it's like telling fat people eat what they want to and not eat anything else. I mean, you want to take it from there? I mean, because I think that really is how I view it. To the mass consumer, it's the same thing as giving the okay to fat people to eat whatever they want to.
Well, I guess you could say that in a sense it can mean, and I think this is what we see. I think it kind of creates an atmosphere that might be one of the reasons we see so many of these guys that'll watch a bunch of videos from other guys, and then they'll mimic it, right? And then they'll create their own video from that. You know, they're just mimicking other videos. They're, you know, and they think that they're applying the philosophy, absorb what is useful, but in reality, you know, you've got to figure out what you can make work. And that's what it's really supposed to be about. But that's a process whereby you have to experiment and you have to try things out. And you can't just walk around like you're looking at a McDonald's menu, looking at videos of what other guys do in martial arts and go, let's see, that looks useful. I think I'll use that. No, absorbing what is useful should really be a process of elimination as you're really learning things and experimenting. And that means, man, you got to get your ass out there for really hundreds to thousands of hours if you want to really apply that like we've done. You got to spend decades trying out various arts, trying out different teachers, trying out different methods for your own personal training. Because this is one of the worst things I notice about a lot of guys now. I'll see that they'll show up in classes. Some of them even show up classes pretty diligently, but it's like they have to have somebody lead them all the time and hold their hand. The class should be where you get the information and you get direction on how to use the information. You learn your drills, you learn, let's say, techniques, whatever you want to call it. And then you better go work the hell out of it. You get it with your training partners, and for every hour you put in class, you need to go work that 3, 4, 5 hours out of class if you want to be able to learn anything from it and really use it. Just going to the class won't cut it. So to me, truly learning what's useful and absorbing it is a process that's painstaking and requires extreme repetition and experimentation. It's not just picking and choosing like off the menu that I think this is useful and this is useful. And that's how I'm taking it, what you're alluding to.
Yeah, exactly. Nailing it as a process, I think, is the best way to term it, because everyone is using this, like I'm saying, they're using it in relationships. They're using it in a way to just escape the process, like you detailed. And for me, this saying of Bruce's goes into something else he said that the other people don't seem to get, and that is to try to simplify. The idea absorb what is useful is part of the process of simplifying. Now, these guys who take what are useful are doing what you're saying. They're trying to make a buffet. They're taking things from, like, we're talking JKD guys, concept guys, just for these generic terms that people came up with in the 80s. If they want to take this from Kali, they want to take this from Savat, they want to take this from Dumag, they want to take this from the Lacosta system, this from the Pikiti, Durcia, all these different things. So they're choosing, like you said, like a menu. So they're having a buffet. That is not what Bruce meant. Bruce did not want to take a bunch of things and keep them as separate. The idea was to take and absorb them to make them one thing. So as if they're no longer disparate arts, and you're not doing, as Vunak would say, you're not out in the kickboxing range and now coming in to the closer range of Thai elbows and knees and headbutts, trapping, and then, nobody who's a real fighter thinks like that. Number one, they don't think like that. Bruce did not mean that. And the point is, you absorb what is useful really means to simplify. And that's what is missing, because people do not get that aspect. And by simplify, we mean come down to one or two things that you use all the time, and you can apply them. And like I say, my analogy is to tactical shooting. You're going to pull the trigger. That's not changing. You're not, nothing else is, if you're tactically shooting, it doesn't, no matter the environment, you're still pulling the trigger. And this is the same thing. That's simplifying. You're going to pull the trigger. There is no debate on that. You're going to pull the trigger. But these guys are saying, well, should I come in low? Should I slide in? Should I try to do some sort of kick first? Or should I try to do a hit first? Or should I try to come in and grab, arm immobilization? And there's a bunch of guys selling loads of seminars which are technique based on this idea, and all it is confusion, and it is not. And they're like, absorb what's useful. Well, you haven't absorbed what's useful, because you are now confusing people and saying, well, okay, this is not like taste. This is, to use our food analogy, it's not like taste, because you eat different foods because of taste. It's not like, what do I need to live? Because we're only looking for, this is different. This is not about taste. This is about survival. So what foods do I need to survive? Well, you're going to need water. Water is key. Any drink that you can live from there's water in it somewhere. There's water in it. But the pure form is water. So to simplify, to absorb what's useful is water. The artificial coloring, you don't need. The artificial sweeteners, you don't need. So these things, like we're talking about, the Salat added to, especially Salat guys, they are so far away from simplifying. And the guys that go out in seminars and the JKD community argue, they want to do Wing Chun. Wing Chun is not a base. It's not the base thing you need to survive. And I know a lot of people want to argue about that, but that's the thing. And it takes someone who's an expert to realize that to get to the things that you really need, absorb what useful means, use those things that you need, only you need, not added because you like them, because you like the way they look, because you like the color, because you like the taste, because of how you think it appears to other people. Those are diseases, as mentioned in the different diseases of the mind that you can have. And I think the key, though, goes to what you said is the process, Ken.
Let's make that more concrete for people. Here, I'll give you an example. If you think your freaking Wing Chun is so good, here's what you need to do. This is what I did years ago when we were working more from that base. All right, go find your best buddy who is really great at high school and or collegiate wrestling, okay? And test your Wing Chun against him. See how well your Wing Chun will work against a guy that knows how to come in and get a hold of you and get a hold of your limbs, and see if you can keep him off of you with your Wing Chun. Make extensive notes, videotape everything that happens, and analyze the hell out of it. JKD was meant to be an analytical process, learning learning what's useful, right? Well, how do you do that? You got to test the ever-living shit out of it. So you try out your Wing Chun against that. Well, then what else do you do? Well, now try out your Wing Chun against a guy swinging a club around. Okay, see how that works for you. Then try that against the guy doing savate. Okay, and see how well you're going to do with somebody who's got very quick, precise kicking that can change angle of attack very quickly. So you see my point. You have to take all these things that you think you want, and you've got to really try to functionalize them and find out what their limitations are. And then when you find the limitations, and you keep your little scorebook going in your notebook, and you go, well, I tried my Wing Chun against this, and this, and I analyzed the video or the film that we shot of this, and I was only able to pull something off 4 times out of like 400 attacks. So it's time to flush my freaking Wing Chun down the toilet, probably. I mean, if you're being really analytical, these are I don't mean to pick on Wing Chun. I just wanted to make an example because that's actually where I ended up with it. I found that Wing Chun didn't even work well against Aikido guys that had really fast hands. It would even fail for me. And I had pretty fast poks and hits. I worked it a lot. You know, that first core of the modified Junfan trapping progression that we used to all learn, you know, there are bits and pieces of that could work at times. But if something's not working for you a majority of the time, why would you keep it? That's when you would decide, okay, I'm setting that away. That's no good. So that to me is a little more, that's kind of a concrete example of the process that we're talking about.
Right. And damn you, Ken, you gave out some of our secrets.
I know. We had to. Yeah. You had to give them some.
Well, because you and I, the thing, what he's saying to make it even more, to give it the specific label, is we're empirical. Empirical. We try these things just like a drug. You know, you have this idea about a drug. Well, it can't be a theory. The drug's actually got to work, you know, and if it doesn't work, then it's useless. And so it's tried out in drug trials, as it's known. Same thing we're doing here. We're empiricists. We use these things, we empirically test them, and we've done this with not just the Wing Chun, you know, same thing with Taekwondo. Both of those, their concepts, they view a fight in a certain perspective, and it's wrong. They got holes in them. And the thing that the Wing Chun people will try to attack us with this false argument, which is not a true Scotsman. You're not a good Wing Chun guy. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I can Wing Chun. I'm not going to do the rolling chi sao, but try to stop me hitting you. And then if you stop me, see how quick that I will trap your ass and hit you. If you can stop me from hitting you, which I don't think you can, because I was a professional fighter. So, and normal people can't handle that. So the point is, we are saying these things from a level of expertise, not of the slob level. I mean, Ken made his living training people back in the 80s when this was huge, when it was breaking. They were the JKD Center for the United States, where they had their seminars and camps. That was the center. And if you don't know that, we've talked about that in some other videos. But the point is, this absorb what is useful is said with not enough understanding. It's a parroted phrase. I think that's how a lot of people want to go around and recite things from the Tao of JKD, but that doesn't mean they understand them. It does not mean they understand them. And there are guys from the early 70s who still recite things from the JKD Tao, but they don't understand them. Because if you understand them, you leave them behind. You walk on, as Bruce said. And the thing is, JKD guys want to argue in groups and forums about all this, and they're going to argue about, do we have real understanding? Well, let me tell you about our legitimacy, just to encapsulate this. Ken and I are both 1.5 generations from Bruce, 1.5. There are not many people alive that are first generation guys. At 1.5, there are few of us that are 1.5. Second generation, it's getting hard to find this. Most of these guys are third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Some of you guys are seminar trained by guys who trained other people in seminars. You never saw Bruce alive. The guy that trained you never saw Bruce alive. And the guy that trained him never saw Bruce alive. That is not the case with us. we come from guys who trained with Bruce when he was alive, and trained at the same time. Ken was actually started training when Bruce was still alive, the very end of Bruce's life, with guys who had trained with Bruce and Dan. So that's 1.5. And I trained with those guys, that same thing. I just was later than Ken was. Bruce had already died when I had started training, obviously. But the point is, our legitimacy is sound. So don't come at us on we don't know what the hell we're talking about, because I'm sorry, Junior, we're here long before you were, especially Ken. So I just want to establish our legitimacy. So when we're talking about these things, these aren't things we just came up with in our dreams last night. These are things that we've taken and we've evolved from there. So I mean, that's a good point, a good jumping off point to talk about. What are you doing now, Ken? Because you just talked to me about some guys that you had that you in training that have been to other places, because you have mixed things that are absorbed. You have actually absorbed what's useful. You're using things from other systems now, and actually you got a I don't know, you term it workshop, I guess, workshop coming up on the 26th of October, I think it is. And in St. Louis,
27.
and 27. Okay, 26 is Friday. Yeah, 26 is Friday. Okay, 27. And so, give us a breakdown of what that covers. What are you covering in that?
Well, there's several things I need to say in that mix. Is you know, here again, the thing that's truly different about where we came from, JKD wise, the big difference I see, especially when I look around at what other guys in St. Louis here who came way after us are doing with it, is I see those guys as basically, they're almost like, it's as if they're almost historical preservationists of Junfan kickboxing. They're from what I see, they're attempting to practice and preserve a lot of what Bruce himself was doing way back. I mean, way back before Bruce even dropped a lot of what he was doing. And you know, that's not real JKD the way we learned it in the old days. We're back to, here it is again. It's a process. It's a process of, it's an empirical process of analysis, creativity, and having to be really truthful about what you can and can't make work, you know. And once again, I don't want to step on Wing Chun guys' toes, because there was a guy, Jared Whitaco, who taught Wing Chun in our school. Jared was really solid. He was great. But, you know, I found that with a base from that art that was early on as part of what we did, that even training that for hundreds of hours, I just found that its applications were limited to a very small portion of combative reality, which meant to me that it wasn't efficient enough. It wasn't broad-based enough to deal with a lot of different types of attacks. So I started to feel that it became pretty useless. I mean, a good solid hard talk style, very basic trap in close is good stuff. But for me, in my body type, and even at the height of my youth, and this is what I was doing for a full-time living at that time, training and teaching, I found that it was, so much of it was too little useful in too many other situations. Hence, and I tried to say that earlier in a different way. So there's that. So to me, this is the biggest difference between us, is that we learned the true JKD process, which was actually Bruce's philosophy. We didn't try to become preservationists or mimics of how he used to train, you know, back in the 60s and well, even before the early 70s, really. Whereas a lot of guys seem to be trying to mimic that. I think they even misunderstand what Dan Asano was trying to show them in workshops when he would show these drills. He was kind of trying to historically show you what Bruce used to do. And I think a lot of guys have taken that and decided that that's JKD. No, to me, that's preserving Junfan kickboxing, you know, with the Wing Chun root. It's not really growing and being creative and learning and creating your own art, which is what you were really supposed to do, right? So I wanted to say that. Now, as far as what I'm doing on the 27th, I'll kind of in a nutshell put it this way. It's really oriented to empty hand work against the knife. But included in that, which a lot of people skip this part, is first of all, you have to spend a little bit of time, even in a workshop like that, working with the knife itself offensively. Because if you don't have above average skills that way, then you're not doing yourself justice defending against it, because not everybody's going to say, here, wait a minute, while I pull the knife out and say, okay, give me a minute. Here it is. Okay, now I'm coming at you with the overhead, with the ice pick shot, or I'm going to come right up the, which I see that in a lot of other arts. They make it really, they're so afraid to face the knife that I see a lot of guys exaggerate telegraphing where the attack's coming from. So one of the things I like to do in the beginning, and it's a good warm-up, is people will conceal the blade on various places, and they will move around through a group of people. And their job is to pull that knife as fast as they can and stab someone multiple times as quickly as possible, and try to keep the guy from even seeing the knife be drawn. So to do that, you have to spend time concealing the knife in various places where you can feel that you can get to it. And you have to move around and figure out how you can get that thing out and surprise the heck out of the guy. So that's one major component. It brings out a lot of movement, like startle type movement too. So there's that. Other components are, how do you deal with when you suddenly trip? You just even moving backwards and you trip and you're on the ground. The guy's on top of you, and he's doing the typical instinctive thing of falling on you and then trying to bury that knife into your face, or trying to bury that knife into your chest or in your gut. And you'll work from there as a starting point. Sometimes we'll even use a starting point of, you're on your back, guy's got the knife above you, you grab his wrist out of a startled reaction. Okay, and you start training from that point of that grab, and you learn how to move from there. Just to give you some ideas. I'll give away one of my favorites, because I found that I can have been able to pull this off on guys who have better knife skills than I do. Don't ever give up strong low line kicking, particularly from the thighs.
Hey,
don't ever give that up.
Calm down. All right, calm down, because
give it too much.
All right, calm down, because you're giving out. You're giving out stuff.
I'm not telling them how to do it. I'm just telling them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, back to your thing.
Hey guys, if y'all want to send me $5 for that tidbit, I'll.
We need to put a PayPal donate on our. Hey, actually, we might do that. We're gonna start putting Patreon or whatever on here.
Do it for right now. Put one up that looks like a pumpkin, like a little kid's pumpkin thing.
Yeah. But the thing is, okay. So I mean, we have, right now, if you could sit through all of our videos, we give out lots of information. We're always giving out free information and stuff, but we need to watch it, because because this is not for freebie hunters. We're trying to connect with the people who are serious, and those people who are serious know that they need to prepare themselves, and to prepare themselves means that they have to train, get the information, and train with it. So it's really about them coming to us. And if you're not willing to do that, then why would we invest any time in you? Why should we give you free information that costs us decades of our lives? We should anyway. But back, so you're talking about movement, because I know one of the big things that you do in all of your workshop clinic things is that it's about freedom of movement, and this is something that a lot of people do never cover. They never cover this, and I think that's something that's very important. That one of the things you're going to come away with if you go to your thing on the 27th is you're going to learn how to move better. Correct?
Yeah, that's crucial. I mean, if you can't move, you're dead meat. We all agree on that. A guy moving at you fast with a knife. I mean, if you don't believe me, just get into a corner between two walls and have your attacker pull out his knife. You might want to use a training knife the first time, at least, right? And don't use a bendable rubber one either. At least use a nasty ass hardwood or blunt aluminum or blunt steel knife, because it'll still hurt like shit, and you'll still be afraid of that thing pumping into you. And then just have the guy who's the attacker. So now we're not even talking about not knowing when it's coming. The guy's standing in front of you, and I'll bet you that most of you guys will get the shit stabbed out of you when that guy rushes you and you're in that corner. So just do that alone. because that's a common thing. Guy gets to drop on you, he grabs a hold of you, and he'll pump you with the blade. Just try that alone as a starting point.
So now you've given out 2 things free.
Yeah, 2 good.
So anyway, so what? Without trying to give out every damn thing for free. Well,
no, I'm not going to moon everybody. Leave that out. I'm not doing it.
Okay. So the what else are you covering? This is how long is this? 4 hours? Are you doing what is this?
This is part 2 of it's an 8-hour thing, and this is the second half. We did the first part a couple months ago.
Yeah, but can new people come in? That's the question.
Yeah, new people can come in. I never disallow that, because they'll kind of get a feel of things, and I just tell them there's going to be stuff I know you won't be comfortable doing. And just feel free to set up on the side. Nobody's going to call you names or call you a sissy or any weird stuff, because a lot of this stuff, if you haven't done it before, it's going to be scary if you haven't, and you'll fail frequently, and that's okay, because then it'll give you the impetus to hopefully want to train more. But don't let that stop you. I won't let you get hurt. I promise that. I'm not saying I won't let you feel pain, but I won't let you get hurt.
Okay. All right. I won't even talk about that. I'll say that off air to Ken. But okay. So I'll just make that very clear to people. So this is a continuation of something he did before, but you don't need any previous experience to show up for his workshop. So go to the workshop. It's gonna change your mind on things, as Ken trains differently than anybody you've trained with before. I guarantee that, and that you're going to get if nothing else. I mean, at the least, if you can come out moving better and have freedom of movement, that's definitely worth it. And so contact Ken. You can do that on his Facebook, on his Ken ONeill Facebook page, or you can put something in here and I'll get it. If you send a message to this video, I'll get it and I'll tell Ken about it. And Ken will give his number out again too later. But so we're on that. So that's pretty cool. And that's right before Halloween. And what I do want to bring up about the Halloween is basically in the United States is the start of when crime starts increasing in the United States, because we start going through what we call the holiday season and getting towards Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving, of course, leads to what's called Black Friday, when everybody goes crazy in the shops. And so there's actually physical violence in stores. People are fighting people in Walmart and stuff over buying buying whatever the hell is popular that year. That happens. People break into your cars more often to steal your gifts, steal your things that you bought. There's more home invasions around this time because they know that people have gifts and they're buying especially expensive things and things that are easy to steal, iPads, computers, stuff like that that's easy to carry nowadays. Even flat screen TVs don't weigh anything anymore. So there's more break-ins that way. There's more ATM robberies because people know people are going to get money out to go buy things with. So all of this crime increases, and you can look at the statistics, but I know what I'm talking about. It increases, and as it goes towards Christmas and the New Year, during this whole period that we're heading to, Halloween is when it starts. So you know what? Get a jump on being prepared for the violence that increases, and trying to ignore the violence and thinking you're immune to it is stupidity. Because you have no say in it. It's not a unilateral thing. Not thinking about violence doesn't save you from violence. Not preparing yourself for violence doesn't help you. It's the same thing as if suddenly there's some sort of large disease coming, some new avian bird flu. If you're not prepared for it, if you're not taking precautions, not wearing breathing apparatuses like we do in the Orient, people wearing things that protect them from breathing in contamination. And if you're not prepared with your sanitation, in this case, and the sanitation in the case we're talking about is to get these skills, because being able to move, like Ken was talking about, is the key to everything. I'm sorry, if you're in a wheelchair, you are a future victim. If somebody wants to rob you, you are a victim. You're going to be a victim. If they really want to rob you, you just don't have enough, so I have a gun. Yeah, really? So how many tactical courses have you done in a wheelchair? I bet none. So I'm sorry, but this is the law of reality. Animals go after the weaker animals. Why? Because it's easier. It's easier and it's safer. Because you're not going to, oh, that's disgusting. Why is it disgusting? That's exactly what you do. You herd a bunch of cows together in a place where they're not going to hurt you. They're domesticated, and then you kill them because you don't risk anything. Same thing with humans. Humans are animals. They do the same thing. They're not going to jump into the tiger cage and say, come on, they don't do that. And the same thing, if you become, in this case, the analogy, you become a tiger, they're not going to go after you, but they are going to go after the most vulnerable. So if you are in a wheelchair, if you have a cane or something, which is all about mobility, and in nature, if you can't move, you're dead. Because in nature, in reality, even if you live in the wilderness in Alaska, out in the middle of nowhere, you're dead. If you're in a wheelchair, you're going to die. And if you have a cane, you're going to die. It's just, that's it. I mean, twisting your ankle can lead to death. So mobility is everything. And I don't think a lot of people, and this is my secret, my thing I'm giving out to you. Mobility is the key to survival. If you have no mobility, if your mobility is compromised, you are dying or very susceptible to being killed. So that's what I got to say about that. Now, while we're talking about that, I've got a training that's coming up that same weekend, but mine starts on the 26th, which is a Friday. And this is my tribute to Benghazi. So my training course, which is counter urban violence, which is exactly fits into this time period right before the holidays where we get into the major crime, this is exactly training for the specifics of that situational environment, which means very close 1 and 2 attackers. We're not going to deal with just one. We're dealing with 2. Now, mine starts on the 26th, and that's 3 hours. We do 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. that Friday night. Saturday, we come back at noon and go to 8 p.m. And we don't take lunch breaks. We take small breaks, but we don't take any large breaks. And then on Sunday, we do 2 hours, 10 a.m. to noon. So that's 13 hours. I train command. I'm training my military stuff to civilian people. It's just not as hard or as long. That's the only difference, but it's the same things I train them in. And so this is it's called Charlie Camp, and that's on my website, combat-judo.com, and my web pages and everything. But you can get in on that, and we have certificates for everyone who gets through it, and we also have the 2 excellence awards, always the best 2 guys, best 2 people. We haven't had any women make it to the excellence awards yet. But anyway, so that happens, and it's a great camaraderie. These guys are great, and it's more than just training. This is like a brotherhood. So that's a thing. If you want to join something that's more than just informational, that's just more than showing up to a faceless, nameless thing, and you want to become part of the brotherhood, then come to that, as I said. And that's in Ravenna, Ohio, which is about 45 minutes from Cleveland. So it's in Ohio, 26th, 27th to 28th of this month. Anyway, so that's our little plug for what we're doing. And I think that we covered stuff pretty well. So we'll just give a little short wrap up on any thoughts that Ken wants to say, because I'm going to say something to Ken off air. But yeah, anyway, Ken, what do you have to say?
I don't know. I guess I would just say, we're not trying to attack people here. We're just trying to get people to think and open their minds. And, we both see a lot of stuff on YouTube that's just so hokey. And it's obviously people that don't understand what they're doing. And they are just doing mimicry. I mean, you can see it in their body mechanics. You can see it in their timing. The fact that the contact is so unrealistic that, I think a lot of you guys that are trying to learn that way don't realize that you need to have a base in real training first. You need to go to at least a couple of places, a couple of different arts, and actually interact with real people and learn something about how to get hit, and learn something about how to fall, how to do a few rolls. If you can't move and you can't handle being knocked down, you can't handle being hit at all, then all that other mimicry stuff that some of you guys are doing off these videos is even a bigger joke. So just kind of a warning, so that you don't get yourself in trouble that you can't handle. That's how I would wrap it up, I guess, for me.
Okay, so in this case, what the key things, it's just like training, lifting weights or whatever. You gotta. The thing is, we're attacking the muscle to make the muscle respond and become stronger. And the same thing, we're attacking your beliefs to make your beliefs stronger. And we attack things in a way to test them against reality. And that leads us back to absorb what is useful. And again, I will reiterate, it's about the process. It's about the process. And so if you came in late on this, wait till it's posted on YouTube, which will be soon, and watch it over and over. We gave out too much free information, as we always do. But anyway, so I'm going to sign us off because I think that keeping it short will make you focus better on what we said. There's a lot of things we can talk about. Join us again. We'll also be talking, we'll be bringing back Stan and Norm. Those guys are 1.5 generation guys also. So watch out for that. And Ken and I will also be talking to you, and look out for our advanced warning about what we're going to do that you can take advantage of. So we'll see.